The morning alarm buzzed through the quiet halls of the Galactic Combat Academy. Senior analyst Taman Park rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the blue glow of his computer screen. Numbers filled the display like stars in space. Combat reports from across the galaxy waited for his review. For 3 years, Taman had worked in the statistical department. His job was simple but important. He read through mission reports from human soldiers fighting alien enemies. He counted casualties. He tracked success rates. He looked for patterns that might help save lives in future battles. Today felt different. Something in the data made his stomach twist with worry. Taman pulled up the latest batch of reports from the Outer Rim colonies. Battle after battle showed the same terrible story. Human soldiers went on dangerous missions. Most of them never came home. The lucky ones returned wounded and broken. The unlucky ones came home in metal boxes. But one name kept appearing in ways that made no sense. Lieutenant Jiwoo Han. Taman frowned and typed her name into the search system. The computer hummed for a moment before displaying the results. His eyes widened as he read through the list. Operation Red Dawn on Kepler Station. 40 Marines deployed. 39 killed in action. 1 survivor. Jiwoo Han. The Siege of New Busan Colony. 15 engineers trapped behind enemy lines. 14 confirmed dead. 1 survivor walked out 3 days later. Jiwoo Han. Mission Starfall on Europa Base. 8 reconnaissance soldiers sent to investigate alien activity. 7 bodies recovered. 1 soldier returned safely to base. Jiwoo Han. The list went on and on. 23 different missions over 2 years. Every single time Jiwoo Han was the only human left alive when the fighting ended. Taman leaned back in his chair. His hands shook slightly as he reached for his coffee cup. This was impossible. No soldier could be that lucky. No one could survive what she had survived. He needed to tell someone about this. Director Yoon Seo Kim sat in her office on the top floor of the academy building. Through her large window, she could see young cadets training in the courtyard below. They moved in perfect formations, practicing combat drills that might save their lives someday. When Tae-min knocked on her door, she was reviewing budget reports for new equipment purchases. She looked up as he entered, noting the worried expression on his face. "What is it, Tae-min? You look like you have seen a ghost." Tae-min placed a thick folder on her desk. "Director, I think we have a serious problem. I have been reviewing combat statistics and I found something very strange." Director Kim opened the folder and began reading. Her eyebrows raised higher with each page she turned. After several minutes of silence, she looked up at Tae-min. "This cannot be right. Check your data again." "I already did, Director. 3 times. "The numbers are correct." Director Kim stood up and walked to her window. She watched the cadets below practicing their sword work against training robots. They moved well, but she knew most of them would not survive their first real battle against alien enemies. "Call an emergency meeting," she said without turning around. "I want Captain Min-ho Lee, Commander So-young Choi, and Dr. Hyun-woo Jang here within the hour. We need to discuss this Lieutenant Han situation immediately." An hour later, 4 of the Academy's most important officials sat around the conference table in Director Kim's office. The folder containing Jiwoo Han's records lay open in the center of the table like an accusation. Captain Min-ho Lee, head of combat training, spoke first. He was a large man with scars on his face from his own military service. "This has to be a mistake in the computer system. No single soldier could survive this many deadly missions. It is mathematically impossible." Commander So-young Choi disagreed. She was smaller than Captain Lee but twice as fierce. Her reputation for finding cowards and deserters was legendary throughout the academy. "Maybe she is not as brave as these reports make her seem. Maybe she hides while her teammates die. Maybe she lets others fight while she finds safe places to wait until the battle ends." Dr. Hyun-woo Jang, the academy's expert on alien species and biology, had been quietly reading through the reports. He looked up from the papers with a puzzled expression. "That does not explain the enemy casualty numbers. Look at this report from the Vega colony incident. Jiwoo's squad encountered a Repthan war party. 5 humans died, but they killed over 30 Refans before the battle ended. That is a kill ratio that suggests extremely effective combat performance, not cowardly hiding." Director Kim tapped her fingers on the table. "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "I'm not sure yet. But if Lieutenant Han is hiding during battles, she is somehow still participating in the fighting effectively enough to cause massive enemy casualties." "That seems unlikely." Captain Lee shook his head. There must be a logical explanation. Maybe other units are arriving to help, and the reports are not recording their involvement properly. Commander Choi pulled out her tablet and began typing. I am checking cross-references with nearby units during these incidents. After several minutes, she looked up with a grim expression. No. In most cases, Jiwoo's units were operating alone, far from any possible backup. She was the only human in the area when these battles took place. The room fell silent. Outside, the sound of training exercises continued. But inside the conference room, 4 experienced military officials struggled to understand what they were seeing. Dr. Zhang cleared his throat. There is one more thing that bothers me about these reports. Look at the medical evaluations after each incident. Most sole survivors of combat situations show signs of severe trauma, post-traumatic stress, physical exhaustion, emotional breakdown. Jiwoo Han's medical reports show none of these symptoms. After each mission, she is described as calm, alert, and ready for immediate redeployment. That is not normal, Commander Choi admitted. Director Kim stood up and walked to her wall display. She activated the holographic projector and pulled up a galaxy map. Red dots marked the locations of Jiwoo Han's various missions. They were scattered across human space, from the inner colonies to the dangerous frontier worlds. We need more information, she said finally. I want a full investigation into Lieutenant Han's background, training records, and service history. I want interviews with anyone who has served with her and survived. I want medical experts to review her psychological profiles. She turned back to face the group. And I want this investigation kept quiet. If word gets out that we are studying our own soldiers for impossible survival rates, it could damage morale throughout the fleet. Captain Lee nodded. What if we find that she is somehow cheating or betraying her fellow soldiers? Then we court-martial her and make an example, Commander Choi said firmly. Dr. Zhang looked uncomfortable. And what if we find that she is not cheating? What if she is genuinely surviving these situations through skill or luck or something else we do not understand? Director Kim returned to her seat. Then we need to figure out how to create more soldiers like her. Because if Lieutenant Jiwoo Han can survive what no other human can survive, then we need to understand why. Our species' future in this galaxy may depend on it. The meeting ended with assignments for each official. Captain Lee would review Jiwoo's training records. Commander Choi would conduct interviews with surviving soldiers who had served with her. Dr. Zhang would analyze the enemy casualty patterns and medical reports. As they left the conference room, none of them realized they were about to uncover something that would change everything they thought they knew about human potential in combat. The investigation into Lieutenant Jiwoo Han had begun. 3 days after the emergency meeting, Investigator Bo-ra Park sat across from Sergeant Dae-ho Kim in a small interview room. The walls were painted white and had no windows. A single recording device sat on the metal table between them. Dae-ho's hands would not stop shaking. He had been in the hospital for 6 months after what happened at Kepler Station. The doctor said his body had healed, but his mind still carried the scars of that terrible night. Bo-ra opened her notebook and smiled gently. She had interviewed many soldiers over the years. She knew how to make them feel safe enough to tell the truth. Sergeant Kim, I need you to tell me about Kepler Station. I know it is difficult, but this information is very important. Dae-ho took a deep breath. His voice came out as barely a whisper. She was not even supposed to be there that night. Lieutenant Han was just delivering supply reports from the transport ship. She was supposed to leave before dark, but she stayed. The transport had engine problems. The pilot said they needed until morning to fix it. So Lieutenant Han asked if she could stay in our barracks for one night. Dae-ho's eyes stared at the table. If we had said no, maybe my friends would still be alive. Bo-ra wrote notes while he spoke. Tell me about the attack. When did it begin? Around midnight. Our sensors picked up movement in the forest outside the station. Captain Rodriguez thought it might be local animals. The Vorthans had never attacked this sector before. Dae-ho's hands clenched into fists. We were so wrong. Kepler Station had been a small mining outpost on the edge of human space. 40 Marines were stationed there to protect the workers and equipment. It should have been a quiet assignment. The Vorthans were known to be aggressive, but their territory was hundreds of light years away. How many Vorthans attacked the station? Our computers counted at least 120. Maybe more. They came from all directions at once, like they had been planning this for weeks. Dae-ho stood up and walked to the corner of the room. He could not sit still when he talked about that night. We had good defenses. Energy barriers, automated guns, plenty of ammunition. Captain Rodriguez was a good leader. He put us in defensive positions throughout the station. Where was Lieutenant Han during this? She was in the communications room when the attack started. She did not have her combat gear with her, just a basic sidearm and a knife. Daeho laughed, but it was not a happy sound. We thought she would be the first to die. Bora leaned forward. But that is not what happened. No, that is not what happened at all. The official report from Kepler Station was only 3 pages long. It stated that hostile alien forces had overwhelmed the defense systems and killed 39 Marines. Lieutenant Han had survived by using superior tactics and had held the station until reinforcements arrived 6 hours later. The report made it sound simple and clean. But Daeho's story was very different. The Vorthons broke through our outer defenses in the first hour. They are strong creatures, taller than humans and much heavier. Their natural armor can stop most of our standard weapons. We needed direct hits with high-power rounds to bring them down. Daeho sat back down but immediately stood up again. Captain Rodriguez ordered us to fall back to the inner compound. We lost 8 men in the first retreat, then 12 more when they breached the main building. What was Lieutenant Han doing during this time? I do not know. She disappeared when the fighting started. We thought she was dead or hiding somewhere safe. We were too busy trying to stay alive to look for her. Bora checked her notes. The report says you were wounded during the 3rd hour of the battle. A Vorthon plasma rifle hit me in the chest. Burned right through my armor. I passed out from the pain and blood loss. When I woke up, I was in a medical transport ship heading back to Earth. What do you remember from before you lost consciousness? Daeho stopped moving and stared at Bora. His eyes were wide with fear and confusion. That is the part that makes no sense. Right before I passed out, I saw Lieutenant Han. Where did you see her? She was walking through the main corridor where the heaviest fighting was happening. But she was not running or hiding. She was walking slowly like she was taking a casual stroll through a park. Bora felt a chill run down her spine.
What was she doing?
Killing Vorthons, one after another, but not like a soldier in battle, more like a farmer harvesting crops. Efficient and calm. Daeho sat down heavily in his chair. I have been in combat for 10 years. I have seen brave soldiers and skilled fighters, but I have never seen anything like what Lieutenant Han was doing that night. Can you describe her fighting style? She moved differently than in training. At the academy, she was good but not exceptional. That night she moved like she knew exactly where each enemy would be before they got there. Like she could predict their movements, Bora wrote quickly, trying to capture every detail. Did she seem injured or tired? No, she looked completely calm, not even breathing hard. And the strangest part? Daeho paused and shook his head. The strangest part was that she was smiling. After the interview with Daeho, Bora went to see Communications Officer Yunji. Lim Yunji worked in the Academy's technical department and had access to all recorded communications from military operations. I pulled the audio logs from Kepler Station, Yunji said as they walked through the archives room. Most of the recordings are exactly what you would expect. Soldiers calling for help, reporting casualties, coordinating defensive positions. She stopped at a computer terminal and pulled up the audio files. But there are some recordings from Lieutenant Han that are very unusual. The first recording was time-stamped at 0247 hours, about 2 hours into the battle. Jiwoo's voice came through the speakers clearly. She sounded completely relaxed. Command, this is Lieutenant Han. Station perimeter has been breached. Estimate enemy force at approximately 100 units. Proceeding to secure inner compound, Bora frowned. That sounds like a routine status report. Listen to this one from an hour later. The second recording was different. In the background, they could hear the sounds of intense combat. Plasma fire, explosions, alien war cries, but Jiwoo's voice remained calm and steady. Command, this is Han. Hostile casualties are mounting. Estimate 35 enemy units neutralized. Station defenses holding. She sounds like she's commenting on a training exercise, Bora said. It gets stranger. Yunji played the final recording, time-stamped at 0623 hours. The background noise had changed. Instead of active combat, they could hear only silence and the occasional sound of footsteps. Command, this is Han. Station is secure. All hostile forces have been eliminated. Requesting cleanup crew for enemy remains. Also requesting medical transport for one wounded friendly. Station ready for normal operations. Bora sat in stunned silence. She reported the station as secure 6 hours after the attack began. The reinforcement fleet did not arrive until 800 hours. That means she spent almost 2 hours alone on the station, with over 100 enemy bodies, Yunji said quietly. After leaving the archives, Bora went to see medical examiner Jin Ho Yu. His office was located in the basement of the Academy Medical Building. The walls were lined with reports and photographs from various combat incidents. I examined the alien remains from Kepler Station, Jinho said without looking up from his desk. Very interesting case. The Vorthan casualties showed signs of combat techniques that should not exist. What do you mean? Jinho pulled out a thick folder filled with autopsy photographs and medical diagrams. Vorthans have very specific weak points in their anatomy. Most human soldiers learn about these weak points during basic training, but knowing about them and actually hitting them in combat are two very different things. He spread several photographs across his desk. Bora tried not to look too closely at the graphic images. Every single Vorthan casualty from Kepler Station was killed with precision strikes to these weak points, not random hits that got lucky. Deliberate, accurate targeting of the most vulnerable areas. Could that happen by accident? Once or twice, maybe. But we recovered 97 Vorthan bodies from that station. Every single one was killed with textbook perfect technique. Jinho looked up at Bora with worried eyes. The problem is that Lieutenant Han had never fought Vorthans before. Her service record shows no previous contact with that species. She should not have known their anatomy well enough to fight them this effectively. Bora gathered her notes and prepared to leave. As she reached the door, Jinho called after her. Investigator Park, there is one more thing. The kill patterns suggest that one person was responsible for all 97 enemy casualties. One person working alone killed an entire Vorthan war party in less than 4 hours. Bora walked back to her office through the quiet academy corridors. Her mind struggled to process what she had learned. Sergeant Daeho's testimony, the audio recordings, and the medical evidence all pointed to the same impossible conclusion. Lieutenant Jiwoo Han had single-handedly defeated over 100 alien warriors, while her fellow soldiers died around her. And according to everyone who had investigated the incident, she had done it with skills and knowledge she should not have possessed. The mystery of Jiwoo Han was getting deeper and more disturbing with every piece of evidence they uncovered. Data analyst Hyejin Park had not slept in 36 hours. Empty coffee cups covered her desk like small monuments to her exhaustion. The computer screens around her workstation glowed with endless streams of information about Lieutenant Jiwoo Han. Director Kim had ordered a complete analysis of every mission Jiwoo had ever participated in. Hyejin was one of the Academy's best data specialists, but this investigation was pushing her skills to the limit. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the latest report on her screen. Operation Crimson Dawn had taken place 8 months ago on a remote planet called Zerion. Jiwoo's reconnaissance team had been sent to investigate strange energy readings in an abandoned mining complex. The team consisted of 8 soldiers, all experienced veterans. Their mission was simple: get in, scan the area, and report back. It should have taken 6 hours at most, but something went wrong. Hyejin pulled up the mission timeline. The team had entered the mining complex at 900 hours local time. Their first status report came at 10:30 hours, confirming they had reached the main facility without problems. The second report never came. Search and rescue teams found the bodies of 7 soldiers scattered throughout the mining tunnels. They had been killed by a Zephyrian hunting pack, one of the most dangerous alien species in known space. Zephyrians were fast, intelligent, and completely ruthless. Most human soldiers could not survive an encounter with even one of them. The rescue team found evidence that Jiwoo's squad had fought against at least 23 Zephyrians. When the battle ended, 7 humans were dead, and 23 aliens lay scattered around the complex. Jiwoo was found sitting calmly in the main control room, completing her scanning mission as if nothing had happened. Hyejin shook her head in disbelief. She had seen the combat footage from security cameras inside the mining complex. Jiwoo moved through the tunnels like she belonged there, eliminating Zephyrians with weapons and tactics that seemed impossible for a human to master. She moved to the next file: the siege of New Busan Colony. This incident had happened 5 months ago. A group of 15 military engineers had been working to repair damaged communication equipment on the colony's outer edge. Enemy forces had surrounded them during the night, cutting off their escape route. The engineers were not combat specialists. They carried basic weapons but had limited fighting experience. When morning came, enemy scouts reported that the human position had been overrun. But when the main enemy force arrived to claim their victory, they found something unexpected. 14 engineers lay dead, but the communication equipment had been fully repaired and was sending distress signals across the sector. The enemy battalion that had surrounded the engineers was gone. 147 alien bodies were found in the area. Most had been killed with engineering tools that had been turned into deadly weapons. Jiwoo was discovered 3 days later, walking calmly toward the main colony. She reported that the mission had been completed successfully, and the communication array was functioning perfectly. Hai-jin saved her work and walked to the break room. Her head was spinning from all the information she had processed. Every mission followed the same impossible pattern. Jiwoo's unit would encounter overwhelming enemy forces. Her teammates would die fighting bravely, but somehow she would survive and eliminate every single enemy. In the break room, she found psychiatrist Sunmi Lee sitting alone at a small table, staring into a cup of tea. "Dr. Lee, I am glad to see you. I have been reading about Jiwoo Han all day. This case is making me feel crazy." Sunmi looked up with tired eyes. "I have been studying her psychological profiles for the investigation. I think I understand how you feel. What did you find?" Sunmi sighed and gestured for Hee-jin to sit down. "I have reviewed every psychological evaluation Jiwoo has ever taken at the academy. Pre-deployment screenings, post-mission debriefings, stress assessments, trauma evaluations, everything. And there is nothing there. No signs of post-traumatic stress disorder, no survivor guilt, no emotional scarring from watching her teammates die. It is as if these terrible experiences simply do not affect her at all." Hai-jin felt a chill run down her spine. That is not normal human behavior. No, it is not. Most soldiers who survive traumatic combat situations show some psychological symptoms. Nightmares, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, emotional numbness. Jiwoo shows none of these signs. Sunmi pulled out a tablet and showed Hee-jin some test results. "Look at these stress response measurements. They were taken immediately after the Kepler station incident. A normal human who had just survived what she survived should show elevated cortisol levels, increased heart rate, heightened emotional responses. What do her results show? Completely normal, as if she had just finished a routine training exercise instead of a life-or-death battle." Meanwhile, in another part of the academy, combat instructor Chang-ho Park was reviewing old training footage in the archives. Director Kim had asked him to analyze Jiwoo's performance during her time as a cadet. Chang-ho had been teaching combat techniques for 20 years. He had trained thousands of soldiers and could usually spot exceptional talent within the first few weeks of instruction. He loaded the first video file from Jiwoo's basic training period 3 years ago. The footage showed a young woman practicing sword techniques against training robots. Her movements were adequate but not impressive. She made the same mistakes that most new cadets made. The next video showed her marksmanship training. Again, her performance was average. Good enough to pass the requirements, but nothing that suggested exceptional ability. Chang-ho fast-forwarded through months of training footage. Hand-to-hand combat, tactical planning, weapons maintenance, survival skills. In every area, Jiwoo performed at an acceptable level but never stood out from her classmates. "This makes no sense," he muttered to himself. He pulled up her final graduation scores. Jiwoo had ranked 47th out of 93 cadets in her class. Respectable, but certainly not exceptional. Chang-ho leaned back in his chair and tried to understand what he was seeing. The woman in these training videos was competent but unremarkable. She showed no signs of the incredible combat abilities that her recent missions had demonstrated. It was as if she had become a completely different person after leaving the academy. His computer chimed with an incoming message. Archivist In-soo Kim had found something important and wanted to meet immediately. Chang-ho walked across the campus to the main archives building. In-soo was waiting for him in a secure viewing room, standing next to a large display screen. "I found some classified footage that was not included in the main files," In-soo said without any greeting. "This recording is from Jiwoo's first assignment after graduation. Titan base 18 months ago. What kind of footage?" "Security camera recordings from inside the base during a Repthan attack. The quality is not perfect, but you can see what happened." In-soo activated the display screen. The footage was grainy and had poor lighting, but Chang-ho could make out human figures moving through narrow corridors. This was Jiwoo's first real combat mission, Insu explained. Titan Base was attacked by a Reptan strike force. 25 Marines were stationed there. The video showed the initial moments of the attack. Reptan warriors were large, heavily armored creatures that moved with surprising speed. Chang-ho watched as human soldiers fought desperately against overwhelming odds. There, Insu said, pointing to a figure moving through the corridor. That is Jiwoo. Chang-ho leaned forward and studied the image carefully. The woman on the screen moved differently than in her training videos. Her movements were fluid and precise, almost like a dance. She eliminated Reptan warriors twice her size with basic equipment, using techniques that Chang-ho had never seen before. Where did she learn to fight like that? He asked. That is what we need to find out. Watch this part. The footage showed Jiwoo entering a room filled with 6 Reptan soldiers. They were arranged in a defensive formation, blocking all escape routes. Any normal human would have been trapped and killed within seconds, but Jiwoo moved through them like they were standing still. She anticipated their attacks before they made them, stayed one step ahead of their movements, and eliminated each target with ruthless efficiency. This is not the same person who struggled with basic sword techniques during training, Chang-ho said quietly. No, it is not. Something changed in her between graduation and this mission, something fundamental. Chang-ho and Insu spent the next hour reviewing more footage from Titan Base. By the end of the attack, 24 Marines were dead and 41 Reptan bodies littered the base corridors. Jiwoo was found in the command center, calmly filing her mission report. When the meeting ended, Chang-ho walked slowly back to his office. His mind was struggling to process what he had seen. The woman in the training videos and the woman in the combat footage seemed like two completely different people, but they were the same person, which meant that something had awakened in Jiwoo Han after she left the academy, something that transformed her from an average soldier into a nearly unstoppable killing machine. Later that evening, Director Kim called another emergency meeting. The investigation team gathered in the same conference room, where they had first discussed the Jiwoo Han anomaly. What have we learned? Director Kim asked. Hyejin presented her analysis first. The pattern is consistent across every mission. Jiwoo's unit encounters superior enemy forces. Her teammates die in combat. She survives and eliminates all enemy threats. The enemy casualty numbers are always far higher than should be possible for a single soldier. Sunmi shared her psychological findings. She shows no normal human stress responses to combat trauma. Her mental state remains completely stable regardless of how terrible her experiences have been. Chang-ho described the training footage. During her time at the academy, she demonstrated average combat abilities. Nothing suggested she possessed exceptional fighting skills. Insu showed the classified footage from Titan Base, but her first real mission shows combat abilities that far exceed anything in our training programs. Director Kim listened to each report with growing concern. When everyone had finished, she stood up and walked to the window overlooking the training grounds. So we have a soldier who was average during training, but became extraordinary in real combat. She survives impossible situations while her teammates die around her. She shows no psychological effects from repeated trauma, and she eliminates enemy forces with skills and techniques that she should not possess. That is correct, Hyejin confirmed. Director Kim turned back to face the group. Then we need to bring her here for direct examination. I am authorizing a recall order for Lieutenant Jiwoo Han. She will return to the academy for what we will call performance evaluation and commendation ceremonies. What if she refuses to come? Commander Choi asked. She will not refuse. She is still a serving officer in the human military. But we need to be careful how we handle this. If our suspicions are correct, we may be dealing with something beyond normal human capabilities. The meeting ended with specific assignments for each team member. They would prepare interview questions, set up monitoring equipment, and arrange security measures for Jiwoo's arrival. None of them realized that they were about to come face to face with something that would change everything they thought they knew about human evolution and survival. Lieutenant Jiwoo Han stood on the observation deck of Luna Colony, watching Earth turn slowly in the black void of space. She had been on shore leave for 2 weeks, but she had not really been resting. Something inside her never truly rested anymore. The other soldiers on leave spent their time drinking in bars or visiting family. Jiwoo preferred to stand alone and watch the stars. They seemed to call to her in ways she could not explain. "Lieutenant Han?" A young messenger approached carefully. Most people seemed nervous around her now, though she was not sure why. "You have new orders, ma'am." Ji Woo took the sealed envelope without looking away from the viewport. Inside, she found reassignment papers ordering her to return to the Galactic Combat Academy immediately for performance evaluation and commendation ceremonies. She showed no surprise at the orders. Deep down, she had been expecting this call for weeks. The Academy had finally noticed the pattern in her mission reports. They wanted to understand what she had become. "When does the transport leave?" she asked the messenger. "In 3 hours, ma'am." "Bay 7. Thank you." The messenger hurried away, leaving Ji Woo alone with her orders. She read through them again, noting the formal language that tried to make this summons sound like an honor instead of an investigation. They were afraid of her. They just did not want to admit it yet. 3 hours later, transport pilot Kyung-min-oh watched Lieutenant Han board his ship. He had been flying military personnel for 8 years and was good at reading people. Most soldiers heading to the academy were either excited about promotions or nervous about disciplinary actions. Lieutenant Han showed neither emotion. She found her seat strapped in securely and stared out the window at the stars. During the 6-hour flight to Academy Station, she spoke only when directly asked a question. Kyung-min had heard rumors about her. Stories spread quickly through the military about soldiers who survived impossible situations. Some people called her lucky. Others called her cursed. A few whispered that she was something else entirely. Looking at her calm, emotionless face, Kyung-min was starting to believe the whispers might be true. At the academy, Security Chief Dong-wook Lim was making final preparations for Ji Woo's arrival. Director Kim had ordered additional security throughout the complex, though she had not explained exactly what they were guarding against. Dong-wook had read Ji Woo's service file and found it disturbing. No soldier should be able to survive what she had survived. More importantly, no soldier should be able to kill as many enemies as she had killed while working alone. He stationed extra guards at all entrances to the guest quarters. He installed monitoring equipment in the room where Ji Woo would be staying. He even arranged for armed patrols to walk past her window every 30 minutes throughout the night. If Lieutenant Han was dangerous, they would be ready for her. Dr. Hyunwoo Jang spent the day setting up his monitoring equipment in the guest quarters. As the Academy's expert on alien biology, he had been asked to observe Ji Woo for any unusual physical or behavioral characteristics. The room looked normal to casual observation, but hidden cameras and sensors would record everything. Heart rate monitors, stress indicators, movement trackers, and even devices that could detect changes in body temperature or brain activity. If Ji Woo was somehow different from normal humans, his equipment would find the evidence. When the transport ship docked at Academy Station, Director Kim was waiting in the arrival bay with a small, welcoming committee. She wanted to observe Ji Woo's behavior from the moment she stepped off the ship. The airlock opened and passengers began filing out. Director Kim recognized Lieutenant Han immediately from her photographs, but seeing her in person was different. The woman who walked toward them moved with a fluid grace that seemed almost unnatural. "Lieutenant Han, welcome back to the Academy," Director Kim said, extending her hand. Ji Woo shook the offered hand with a grip that was firm but not aggressive. "Thank you, Director. I am honored to be here." Her voice was calm and pleasant. Her facial expression showed appropriate respect for a superior officer. Everything about her manner was perfectly normal and perfectly controlled, which somehow made Director Kim feel more nervous instead of less. "We have prepared quarters for you in the guest wing. You must be tired from your journey." "I do not tire easily, Director, but I appreciate the accommodations." Captain Min-ho Lee stepped forward. "Lieutenant, we are very interested in discussing your recent missions. Your survival rate is quite remarkable." Ji Woo looked at him with eyes that seemed to see more than they should. "I have been fortunate, Captain. Good training and quick reflexes have served me well." "Perhaps we can talk more tomorrow," Director Kim said quickly. She wanted to end this initial meeting before anyone said something that might alert Ji Woo to the true nature of their investigation. "Of course, Director. I am at your disposal." As they walked through the academy corridors toward the guest quarters, Director Kim noticed something strange. Other people in the hallways seemed to sense something unusual about Ji Woo. Cadets and instructors moved aside as she passed, creating a clear path without being asked. It was as if she carried some invisible warning that made people want to give her plenty of space. "Here are your quarters," Director Kim said when they reached the guest wing. "Dinner is served in the main dining hall until 2100 hours. Please make yourself comfortable." "Thank you, Director. Will the interviews begin tomorrow morning?" Director Kim tried to keep her expression neutral. "What interviews?" "The performance evaluation interviews. That is why I am here, is it not?" "Of course." "Yes, we will begin tomorrow at 900 hours. Jiwoo nodded and entered her room. As the door closed behind her, Director Kim felt a chill run down her spine. Lieutenant Han knew exactly why she had been summoned to the academy. The initial interview took place the next morning in Conference Room C. Director Kim, Captain Lee, Commander Choi, and Dr. Jang sat on one side of a metal table. Jiwoo sat alone on the other side, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "Lieutenant Han, we want to discuss your recent mission experiences," Director Kim began. "Your survival rate in dangerous situations is quite unusual." "I follow my training directives. When engaged by hostile forces, I neutralize the threat." Commander Choi leaned forward. "But your squad mates always die, Lieutenant. Every single mission ends with you as the sole survivor." "How do you explain that?" Jiwoo's expression did not change. "They were not good enough. I was." The blunt honesty of her answer shocked the interview panel into momentary silence. Most soldiers would show some emotion when discussing the deaths of their comrades. Sadness, guilt, anger, something. Jiwoo showed nothing at all. Captain Lee cleared his throat. "Lieutenant, we have reviewed combat footage from some of your missions. Your fighting techniques are quite advanced. Where did you learn these skills?" For the first time since the interview began, Jiwoo's expression changed slightly. A small smile appeared at the corners of her mouth. "You would not understand, Captain. You have never been the last one standing." "What does that mean?" Dr. Jang asked. "When you are alone against impossible odds, when death is certain and escape?" Dr. Hyunwoo Jang stared at the test results on his computer screen with growing disbelief. He had run the genetic analysis 3 times, but the results remained the same. The blood sample taken from Lieutenant Jiwoo Han during her medical evaluation contained something that should not exist. He picked up his secure phone and called Director Kim immediately. "Director, you need to come to my laboratory right away. I have found something about Lieutenant Han that you need to see." "What kind of something?" "The kind that changes everything we thought we knew about human biology." 30 minutes later, Director Kim stood in Dr. Jang's laboratory looking at genetic charts that made no sense to her. The walls were covered with molecular diagrams and evolutionary timelines that seemed to tell an impossible story. "Explain this to me in simple terms," she said. Dr. Jang pointed to a series of genetic markers highlighted in red on his display screen. "These are adaptations that humans have never possessed. Enhanced reflexes, improved pattern recognition, accelerated healing, increased muscle fiber density. Evolution normally takes millions of years to develop changes like these." "But Jiwoo has them?" "Not only does she have them, but they appear to be active and growing stronger. Her genetic code is rewriting itself in real time." Director Kim felt a chill run through her body. "That is impossible. A week ago I would have agreed with you, but the evidence is right here in front of us." Dr. Jang pulled up another screen showing brain scan images. "Look at these neural pathway scans. Her brain is forming new connections at a rate that far exceeds normal human capacity." "What does that mean?" "It means she is evolving, Director. Lieutenant Jiwoo Han is becoming something beyond normal human limitations." Dr. Jang called in geneticist Mi Young-sun to confirm his findings. Mi Young had spent 15 years studying human genetics and had never seen anything like Jiwoo's test results. "This is extraordinary," Mi Young said as she reviewed the data. "These genetic modifications would normally take hundreds of generations to develop through natural selection. But they have appeared in a single individual within a few years. How is that possible?" Director Kim asked. "Extreme environmental pressure can sometimes trigger rapid evolutionary responses," Mi Young explained. "If an organism faces life or death situations repeatedly, the genetic code can begin adapting at an accelerated rate." "You mean combat situations?" "Exactly. Lieutenant Han has been placed in survival scenarios that would kill most humans. Her body has responded by developing the genetic tools necessary to survive those scenarios." Director Kim walked to the laboratory window and looked out at the academy training grounds. Young cadets were practicing basic combat drills, preparing for the dangers they would face in the galaxy. "So war is changing us," she said quietly, "creating new types of humans." "That appears to be the case," Dr. Zhang confirmed. Meanwhile, communications specialist Wu Jin Kim was discovering something equally disturbing in the Academy's message center. His job was to monitor communications traffic from across human space, looking for security threats and intelligence opportunities. But over the past few weeks, he had been noticing encrypted messages from various alien governments. The encryption was sophisticated, but Academy computers had managed to decode portions of the transmissions. The aliens were talking about humans. Specifically, they were talking about individual humans who were surviving impossible combat situations and causing massive casualties among alien forces. Wu Jin printed out the decoded messages and took them to Director Kim's office. She was just returning from Dr. Zhang's laboratory, and her face already showed the strain of too many shocking discoveries. "Director, I have been monitoring alien communications traffic. They are discussing anomalous human soldiers." "Anomalous how?" "They are tracking individuals with exceptional survival rates who are turning the tide of battles single-handedly. The aliens are becoming concerned about these enhanced humans." Director Kim read through the translated messages. Terms like impossible human capabilities and genetic warfare appeared repeatedly. One message from a Vorthan military commander recommended avoiding direct combat with humans who matched certain behavioral profiles. "They are afraid of us," she realized.
"Some of them are."
"Others are calling for preemptive strikes against human colonies to prevent the spread of these enhanced individuals." "How many enhanced humans are they tracking?" "Based on these intercepts, at least 47 individuals across human space show similar patterns to Lieutenant Han. The number appears to be growing." Director Kim called an emergency assembly of the Academy's senior staff. The revelation that Ji-Woo was not unique, but part of a larger phenomenon, changed the scope of their investigation dramatically. When the meeting convened, she shared the genetic findings and the alien communications intercepts. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. "We are witnessing human evolution in action," Director Kim announced. "War is creating enhanced soldiers who can survive what normal humans cannot survive." Captain Lee raised his hand. "What do we do about Lieutenant Han?" "We confront her with what we know. If she truly is evolving beyond human limitations, we need to understand how and why." The second interview with Ji-Woo took place in a more secure conference room. This time, Director Kim brought the full investigation team and additional security personnel. Ji-Woo entered the room with the same calm demeanor she had shown since arriving at the Academy. She took her seat across from the panel and waited for their questions. "Lieutenant Han," Director Kim began, "we need to discuss your genetic test results." "What about them?" "They show modifications that should not exist in normal human DNA. Enhanced physical capabilities that have developed over a very short period of time." Ji-Woo nodded slowly. "Yes, they would." The simple admission shocked the panel into silence. They had expected her to deny the evidence or claim ignorance about her condition. "You know what is happening to you?" Dr. Yang asked. "Of course I know. I have been changing since my first real combat mission, getting stronger, faster, more aware, better at surviving." "How is this possible?" Mi-young asked. "War has a way of bringing out what is necessary. When humans are pushed to their absolute limits, when survival depends on exceeding what should be possible, the body finds ways to adapt." Commander Choi leaned forward aggressively. "You are not human anymore." Ji-Woo looked at her with eyes that seemed to contain depths of knowledge and experience that no 25-year-old should possess. "I am what humans are becoming. I'm evolution in action." "What do you mean?" Director Kim asked. "Earth needed soldiers who could survive what is coming. The galaxy is a dangerous place, and humanity was losing too many good people to aliens who were naturally superior in combat." Ji-Woo stood up from her chair, and everyone in the room tensed. She moved with a fluid grace that made her seem to flow rather than walk. "So some of us began to change, to adapt, to become what was necessary to ensure human survival among the stars. How many others are there like you?" Captain Lee asked. "More every day. Each time a human soldier faces impossible odds and survives, each time someone refuses to die when death seems certain, we create the potential for enhancement. The genetic code is learning to respond to extreme combat stress." Dr. Zhang checked his monitoring equipment. Your vital signs are completely stable. This conversation is not causing you any stress at all. Why would it? You are discovering what I have known for months. I am no longer bound by the limitations that restrict normal humans. What are your intentions? Director Kim asked. What do you plan to do with these enhanced capabilities? Jiwoo returned to her seat but did not sit down. She stood behind the chair with her hands resting lightly on its back. I plan to complete my military service and protect human interests throughout the galaxy. That is what I was created to do. Created? By war, by necessity, by the demands of survival in a hostile universe. Jiwoo smiled, and for the first time the expression seemed genuinely warm instead of controlled. You can study me, catalog me, try to understand me, but you cannot stop what I represent. And what do you represent? Commander Choi demanded. The future of human warfare. I am not the anomaly, directors. I am the prototype. The room fell silent. Outside, the sounds of normal academy life continued. But inside the conference room, everyone understood that they had just witnessed the end of one chapter in human history and the beginning of another. What happens next? Director Kim asked quietly. That depends on you, Jiwoo replied. You can try to contain me, study me like a laboratory specimen, and pretend that this evolution is not happening. Or you can accept what I am and help prepare humanity for what is coming. What is coming? Jiwoo walked to the window and looked out at the stars visible beyond the academy station. The real war, Director. Everything we have fought so far has been small conflicts on the edges of space. But there are older, more dangerous species in the galaxy, species that have been watching human expansion with growing concern. She turned back to face the panel. They know about the enhanced humans now. They know that we are evolving beyond their ability to control or defeat us. Soon they will act to stop that evolution before it progresses too far. You mean they will attack us? They will try to destroy us before we become too strong to destroy. And when that happens, humanity will need every enhanced soldier we can create. Director Kim looked around the room at her colleagues. They all wore expressions of fear and uncertainty. The investigation that had begun as an attempt to understand one unusual soldier had revealed a fundamental change in the nature of human evolution. What do you want from us, Lieutenant? Recognition, resources, permission to recruit and train others like me. The Academy could become a center for developing enhanced human capabilities instead of just teaching standard military skills. And if we refuse? Jiwoo's smile became cold and distant. Then you will lose the war that is coming, and humanity will join the long list of species that failed to adapt when evolution demanded change. The interview ended with more questions than answers, but one thing had become clear to everyone in the room. Lieutenant Jiwoo Han was no longer just a soldier with an unusual survival rate. She was the representative of a new form of human life, and the future of their species might depend on how they chose to respond to what she had become. 6 months had passed since the investigation into Lieutenant Jiwoo Han began. Academy statistician Taemin Park sat in his office, completing his final report on what the military now called the enhanced human phenomenon. The numbers on his screen told a story that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Similar cases had emerged across human space, soldiers who survived overwhelming odds, who adapted to any threat, who stood alone against superior forces and emerged victorious. The count now stood at 137 confirmed enhanced individuals, with new cases being reported every week. Taemin saved his report and sent it to the new military leadership. Director Yoon Seo Kim had been reassigned to a research position. Her replacement, Admiral Haewon Choi, had implemented sweeping changes to Academy operations and military doctrine. The mission of the Galactic Combat Academy had evolved. Instead of simply training normal human soldiers, they now served as the primary identification and development center for enhanced human capabilities. Admiral Choi walked through the new enhanced training wing, observing the latest group of candidates undergoing evaluation. These were soldiers who had shown unusual survival rates or exceptional combat performance in recent missions. The training methods had changed dramatically. Traditional combat instruction focused on teaching standard techniques to normal humans. Enhanced training pushed candidates beyond their perceived limitations, creating the stress conditions that seemed to trigger evolutionary adaptation. How many candidates are showing positive responses? Admiral Choi asked Training Director Sung-Ho Park. Approximately 30% show some level of enhancement potential, Sung-Ho replied, checking his tablet. but only about 5% developed the full range of capabilities that we see in Lieutenant Han and others like her. Admiral Choi nodded as she watched a group of trainees practicing advanced combat scenarios. These exercises would have been impossible for normal humans to survive, but the enhanced candidates moved through them with fluid precision. The genetic testing helps us identify potential candidates earlier, Sung-ho continued. Dr. Jang's research has identified specific markers that indicate enhancement compatibility. They stopped to observe one particular trainee who was demonstrating remarkable abilities. Corporal Min-Soo Lee had been transferred from a standard infantry unit after surviving a Zephyrian ambush that killed his entire squad. His movements showed the same unnatural grace that characterized other enhanced soldiers.
How is his psychological adaptation?
Admiral Choi asked. Excellent. Like the others, he shows no signs of trauma from his combat experiences. The enhanced individuals seem to process violent encounters differently than normal humans. Meanwhile, in her new command center, Ji-woo reviewed reports from Special Operations Unit Omega. She had been granted her own command 6 months ago, leading the first official enhanced human military unit in human history. Her team consisted of 12 enhanced soldiers, each with similar adaptive capabilities. Supply Officer Young-Sik Lee noted that their equipment requests were unlike anything the military had seen before. They prepared for battles that standard humans could not even imagine surviving. Team Alpha has completed the reconnaissance mission on Proxima 7, reported her second-in-command, Enhanced Lieutenant Dae-ho Kim. He was not the same Dae-ho Kim who had survived Kepler Station, but another enhanced soldier who had taken the same name in honor of a fallen comrade. Enemy casualties? Ji-woo asked. 47 Repthan warriors eliminated. No human casualties. The mining colony is secure. Ji-woo reviewed the mission report with satisfaction. Enhanced soldiers could accomplish objectives that would require entire battalions of normal troops. They moved faster, fought more effectively, and survived situations that would destroy conventional military units. What is our next assignment? Long-range patrol in the Vega sector. Intelligence suggests increased alien activity in that region. Across the galaxy, war correspondent Se-Jin Oh was filing reports about the changing nature of human military operations. He had been embedded with regular Marine units when they first encountered enhanced soldiers in action. They moved like ghosts through the battlefield, he wrote in his latest article. The enemy never stood a chance. Our own soldiers watched in silent awe as these enhanced humans did what evolution had designed them to do. Survive, adapt, and overcome. The response from normal human soldiers was mixed. Some felt inspired by the enhanced soldiers' capabilities. Others felt obsolete and unnecessary. Military leaders were working to integrate enhanced and normal units effectively. But the most significant response was coming from outside human space. Ambassador Kang Ho Lim received daily communications from alien governments expressing concern about human military evolution. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session to discuss what they termed unfair human advantages in combat. They are demanding restrictions on enhanced human deployment, Kang Ho reported to Admiral Choi during their weekly meeting. Several species are threatening to form a coalition against human expansion. What are they specifically afraid of? Admiral Choi asked. Complete human dominance in military conflicts. Enhanced soldiers are changing the balance of power in the galaxy. Species that have been superior to humans for centuries are suddenly finding themselves outmatched. The irony was not lost on human leadership. For generations, they had been the underdogs in galactic conflicts, outmatched by alien species with natural advantages in strength, speed, or technology. Now the situation was reversing. Are they proposing specific actions? Economic sanctions initially. But some of the more aggressive species are suggesting preemptive military strikes against enhanced human training facilities. Admiral Choi considered this information carefully. What does intelligence say about their military capabilities? Combined, they could pose a serious threat to human colonies. But individually, none of them want to risk direct confrontation with enhanced human units. Professor Nari Kim published the definitive academic study on human combat evolution. Her research, titled Adaptive Warfare, The Evolutionary Response to Galactic Conflict, became required reading at universities throughout human space. Humanity had reached a crucial evolutionary junction, she wrote in her conclusion. Environmental pressure from galactic warfare triggered rapid genetic adaptation. The species was no longer just fighting for survival. We were evolving to dominate. Her research documented the biological mechanisms behind enhanced human development. Extreme stress triggered dormant genetic pathways that had been present in human DNA for millennia. Combat situations activated these pathways, creating individuals with capabilities that exceeded normal human limitations. This evolutionary response appears to be accelerating, Professor Kim noted. Each new generation of enhanced soldiers shows stronger capabilities than the previous generation. The implications were staggering. If the trend continued, enhanced humans might eventually become a separate subspecies, genetically distinct from their normal human ancestors. 1 year after the investigation began, Jiwoo stood on the observation deck of her flagship, the EHS Evolution. Through the viewport, she could see her enhanced team preparing for their most challenging mission yet. Intelligence had identified a coalition of alien species planning a coordinated attack on human colonies. The goal was to destroy enhanced human training facilities before the evolutionary adaptation could spread further. "They fear what we represent," Jiwoo said to Enhanced Captain So-Young Park, who had joined her on the observation deck. "They should," So-Young replied. "We are the future of human warfare." Jiwoo reflected on the Academy's final question from her last interview. "What are you?" The answer had become clearer over the past year. She was evolution in action. The last one standing had become the first of many, and the galaxy would never be the same. Enhanced humans were no longer an anomaly or an accident. They were a natural response to the challenges of survival in a hostile universe. Each successful mission created the potential for more enhanced soldiers. Each impossible victory demonstrated humanity's refusal to accept limitations. "Commander," came a voice from the ship's communication system. "We are approaching the target coordinates." Jiwoo activated her personal communicator. "All teams prepare for deployment. Remember, we are not just fighting for victory in this battle. We are fighting for the future of human evolution." As her enhanced soldiers moved into position, Jiwoo considered what Professor Kim had written about humanity's evolutionary journey. They had moved beyond the stage of simply surviving among the stars. They were becoming the dominant species in the galaxy. The Academy had pored over its deadliest combat reports, looking for patterns and explanations. What they found was evolution in action, the future of human warfare, the next step in their species' development. And standing at the center of that evolution was Jiwoo Han, no longer just a soldier with an unusual survival rate, but the prototype of humanity's destiny among the stars. The last one standing had indeed become the first of many. The enhanced human era had begun, and the galaxy would have to adapt to their presence, just as they had adapted to the demands of survival in an infinite war among the stars. Behind them, the Academy continued its work, identifying and training the next generation of enhanced soldiers. Each new class was stronger than the last. Each mission created new possibilities for human evolution. The pattern that had begun with one impossible survivor was becoming the foundation for humanity's future. And in the depths of space, enhanced human soldiers carried that future forward, one impossible victory at a time. 3 years had passed since Taemin Park first discovered the impossible pattern in the combat reports. The Galactic Combat Academy looked very different now. Where once young cadets had trained for conventional warfare, enhanced humans now prepared for conflicts that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. Admiral Haewon Choi walked through the new Enhanced Operations Center, watching real-time displays that tracked enhanced human units across the galaxy. Blue dots moved across star maps, each one representing a soldier who had transcended normal human limitations. "Current deployment status?" she asked her chief of staff. 643 enhanced soldiers, active across 47 sectors, replied Operations Director Chan-Woo Kim. Success rate remains at 100% for all assigned missions. The numbers told a story that still amazed military strategists. Enhanced humans had not failed a single mission since they began organized operations. Enemy forces had learned to retreat rather than face them in direct combat. "Any updates from the Outer Rim territories?" "Enhanced units have established secure zones around all frontier colonies. Alien raiding parties have stopped attacking human settlements entirely." Admiral Choi nodded with satisfaction. The enhanced human program had achieved something that conventional military forces never could: complete security for human expansion into hostile regions of the galaxy. But success had brought new challenges that no one had anticipated. On the distant world of Haven 7, Enhanced Commander Ji Wuhan stood before a gathering of recently transformed soldiers. These were the newest generation of enhanced humans, and their capabilities exceeded even her own. "You are no longer bound by the limitations that once defined human potential," she told them. "But with that freedom comes responsibility. We are not just soldiers anymore. We are the guardians of humanity's future." Enhanced Lieutenant So-Ra Kim, one of the newest members of her unit, raised her hand. "Commander, what happens when there are no more enemies to fight? What is our purpose when the galaxy is secure?" It was a question that Jiwoo had been considering for months. Enhanced humans had been created by war, shaped by conflict, perfected through combat. But what would they become when peace was achieved? "We evolve further," she replied. "We become whatever humanity needs us to become." At the academy, Dr. Hyun-Woo Jung was documenting changes in enhanced human development that surprised even him. His latest research showed that the evolutionary process was accelerating beyond all projections. The newest enhanced individuals are developing capabilities that we have never seen before, he reported to a gathering of scientists and military leaders. Enhanced cognition, expanded sensory perception, even what appears to be limited telepathic communication between enhanced soldiers. Professor Nari Kim leaned forward with interest. "Are you saying they are becoming a separate species?" "That is exactly what I am saying. Enhanced humans are diverging from baseline humanity at a rate that suggests they will become genetically incompatible within a few generations." The implication sent ripples of concern through the assembled group. If enhanced humans could no longer reproduce with normal humans, what would that mean for the future of the species? "Is this evolution controllable?" asked Admiral Choi. "I do not believe so. The enhancement process appears to be self-directing, guided by factors we do not yet understand." Back on Haven 7, Jiwoo received an urgent message from Academy Command. New threats had emerged from the galactic core, entities that existing military forces could not identify or engage effectively. "Unknown contacts approaching the Centauri system," reported Enhanced Captain In-Ho Park over the communication link. "Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases." Jiwoo studied the tactical data streaming to her display. The approaching vessels moved in patterns that defied known physics, using technologies that seemed beyond current understanding. "Deploy all available enhanced units to intercept," she ordered. This may be the challenge we have been evolving to face. As her team prepared for departure, Jiwoo reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this point. From her first impossible survival at Kepler Station to leading the most advanced military force in known space, she had witnessed the transformation of her entire species. But now it seemed that transformation was entering a new phase. The entities approaching from the galactic core were not the alien species that humanity had been fighting for decades. These were something older, more advanced, and potentially more dangerous than anything they had encountered before. "Commander," Enhanced Lieutenant Min Seo-yu approached with final departure preparations. "All teams report ready for deployment. How do you feel about facing an unknown enemy?" Jiwoo asked. "Confident," Min Seo replied without hesitation. "We have never met a challenge we could not overcome." Jiwoo smiled at the response. It perfectly captured the mindset that defined enhanced humans. They did not fear the unknown because they trusted their ability to adapt to whatever they encountered. "Then let us go and see what the galaxy has prepared for us next." The enhanced human fleet departed Haven 7 with a precision that would have been impossible for normal human forces. Every ship moved in perfect coordination, every soldier prepared for combat scenarios that had never been tested. As they traveled toward the approaching threat, Jiwoo received reports from other enhanced units across the galaxy. Similar unknown contacts were appearing near multiple human systems simultaneously. This is not a random occurrence, she realized. Something is coordinating these approaches. "Agreed," replied Enhanced Major Hai Young Choi from her position on a sister ship. "The timing suggests intelligence and planning." When the enhanced human fleet reached the intercept point, they found themselves facing something that challenged even their expanded understanding of what was possible. The unknown vessels were not ships in any conventional sense. They appeared to be composed of pure energy, changing shape and composition as they moved through space. Their behavior suggested intelligence, but of a type that operated by rules completely different from any known species. "All units prepare for contact," Ji-Woo broadcast to her fleet. "Remember, we represent not just human military capability, but human evolutionary potential." The first engagement between enhanced humans and the galactic core entities lasted only minutes, but it changed everything about humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. The energy beings attacked with weapons that manipulated fundamental forces, bending space and time to create effects that should have been impossible. Normal human technology would have been useless against such capabilities, but enhanced humans had developed beyond normal technology. Ji-Woo and her soldiers moved through the battle with an intuitive understanding of the enemy's attack patterns. They anticipated energy discharges before they occurred, adapted their tactics to counter impossible weapons, and responded to threats that existed outside normal space-time. When the engagement ended, the energy beings retreated toward the galactic core, but not before transmitting a complex message that enhanced human minds could somehow understand. They were testing us, Ji-Woo realized as she studied the message. They wanted to see what humanity had become. "What did they conclude?" asked Enhanced Captain Park. "That we are ready for the next phase of galactic evolution." The message contained coordinates and an invitation. The energy beings were representatives of ancient civilizations that had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. They had been waiting for younger species to develop sufficient capabilities to join them in exploring realities beyond the physical universe. "They are offering us membership in a community of evolved species," Ji-Woo reported to Admiral Choi during their post-mission briefing. But acceptance would mean leaving the physical galaxy behind. What would happen to normal humans? They would continue their own evolutionary path, but enhanced humans would become something entirely different. Admiral Choi considered the implications carefully. Enhanced humans had been created to protect humanity from galactic threats. But now they were being offered the opportunity to transcend the physical realm entirely. "What do you recommend, Commander?" Ji-Woo looked out at the stars through her command ship's viewport. Somewhere among those distant lights, normal humans continued their lives, unaware that their enhanced protectors were facing a choice that would determine the future of consciousness itself. "I recommend that we accept," she said finally. "Enhanced humans were never meant to remain in the physical universe forever. We were always evolving toward something greater. And normal humanity will develop their own enhanced individuals when they face challenges that require evolution. The process will continue, but each generation will be different from the last." 6 months later, Ji-Woo stood on the observation deck of the Academy for the last time. Around her, the final generation of physically enhanced humans prepared for their transformation into energy beings. The Academy would continue its work, training normal humans for the challenges they would face as they expanded deeper into the galaxy. But the enhanced human era was ending as it evolved into something beyond physical existence. "Are you ready?" asked Enhanced Lieutenant Yoon, who had chosen to make the transition with her. "I have been ready since Kepler Station," Ji-Woo replied. "I just did not know what I was becoming ready for." As the transformation began, Ji-Woo felt her consciousness expanding beyond the limitations of physical form. She was no longer the last one standing, but the first to transcend. Her journey from impossible survivor to evolutionary pioneer was complete. Behind her, normal humans would continue their own development, creating new enhanced individuals when necessity demanded. The pattern would repeat, but each cycle would carry humanity further toward their ultimate destiny among the stars. The Academy had pored over its deadliest combat reports and discovered the beginning of human transcendence. The last one standing had become the first to evolve beyond standing entirely, and in the infinite cosmos beyond physical reality. Enhanced humans joined the community of evolved consciousness that had been waiting millions of years for them to arrive.